Greetings, my name is Lucky Luck Luke. Catch me on Twitch, and Lucky Luck 2 is my name on Twitch, so make sure to check me out if you want. If you watch Twitch and you want to try to catch me live. But for now, this is a continuation of my class tutorials, probably the final one because I believe this is the final class to be released for Pit. But don't you worry, pretty sure there's a sequel on the way as long as the company doesn't fall apart, which I don't think it will. But anyways, this is the medic. Astrid Jemison is a Soul Force medic, a fully qualified physician, as well as a trained combatant armed with many skills, nerves of steel, and cutting-edge life force technology. She is a doctor and a biologist racing against a raging epidemic. When a world is wounded, it calls for a healer. Alright, so what's the healer all about? So, start things off, we'll take a look at her inventory. And so she starts with decent armor. The best thing about this armor is that it's considered medium, so if you do find living steel patches, you can actually use it. But all in all, it's not the strongest because it's only 45 and 60 durability, but it's decent armor. It also helps you, it gives you a bonus to disease resistance, poison resistance, and +1 healing, which means that just means the natural healing goes up by 1. Alright, what else does she have? Starts with the utility belt, the combat baton, and the transfuser are her 2 unique items, and a jar knife. So what are these 2 weapons all about? So the transfuser is pretty much kind of like the same strength of is close to the amount of the same strength as a target pistol. It's more durable, uses darts, uses the pistol skill. It does a bit of bonus damage, I believe, on living creatures, and also transfers life force from the creature to you. Not a bad weapon. It's kind of terrible versus mechs in general because it doesn't have much penetration, and it doesn't seem to do that extra little damage that it does from healing. So here's the combat baton. Pretty cool weapon. So this thing is designed to demolish low armor mech units. As you can see, it's 38 damage versus mech, which I believe is accurate. It only has 5 penetration. So if they have armor, it sucks, whether it's organic or not. So it's pretty good against organic units too. I don't know how much damage it does. Definitely doesn't do 38. It's probably around like 10. And it also stuns creatures. So keep in mind what stun does. It makes their attacks less accurate. It also makes their movement speed go down. So sometimes you can kite them by stunning and then running. And also stun also breaks grabs. So if something grabs you, you can stun them, and then that allows you to escape. And starts with the jar knife and a sharpening kit to keep these in good shape. So the combat baton actually has extremely high durability, something to keep in mind. Like you probably will never have this break on you with the sharpening kit unless you're very, very, very careless with it. And on that note, if you're an experienced player and are familiar with acid damage dealing enemies such as like the white proteans, you can actually afford to beat them up with the combat baton because it only takes 2 hits, and you can easily afford the durability damage on the combat baton. Starts with 2 medkits. One thing to note is that healing items from the medic actually heal a bit more. I thought it was 50%, but now I think it's only plus 10 for whatever item you use. I know healing patches generally they heal you for 20, but when you click them they heal you for 30. That's why I thought it was 50, but it doesn't feel like it's 50% when you use like medkits or like that. I'm not 100% sure, but I think it is just plus 10 to healing when you use healing items, not healing spells like heal. Starts with vitamins. Vitamins can be used for, in case you don't want spoilers, it can be used for a recipe that's pretty neat. So make sure you save them, or if you don't have the recipe, then they are not very useful. But if you do have the recipe, make sure you save them. And I think that's all I can say. She only has 2 grenades, which is one of her weaknesses. A few stun grenades. Stun grenades are too bad. It's good for if there's a monster trying to hunt you down melee. You can stun them and slow them down at range. It can help in certain circumstances. Also, if there's a lot of enemies, weak enemies altogether, it's not a bad item to use in those situations. And the damage on it is not too terrible. It's not great. It's only 10, but still, it's there. Lots of ways to heal poison and diseases. So generally, poisons and diseases are not too scary on this character, considering she's a medic and she doesn't have the highest might, but because might determines your resistance to poison and um, diseases. So like most classes, let's start things off, and we'll just talk about her as we go along. As most classes, you're probably going to want to take your armor off for the first few floors and try to save it for later, because you don't really need armor, especially as the medic, because she heals like crazy. So those things can be very dangerous. They can one-shot you. It's kind of weird that they even show up if they try their psionic attack on you. So make sure you kill them quick. Alright. So we're just going to explore the first floor here.
That's going to scar.
Alright. Lamprey Hawks, another horrible spawn to get. So whenever you fight enemies that have low armor, such as Lamprey Hawks are a good example, make sure to use your combat baton on them. So anything with low armor, organic or mech, use this weapon. It's really, really good, unless they're like not dangerous. And the knife you can kind of use for like enemies that are not too scary or have like a bit of armor. But if they have a bit of armor, the combat baton is probably still better in most cases. But you can be pretty loose with your melee weapons, because you have the sharpening kit, and the combat prod baton, I mean, has well near infinite durability. Although it does take an energy cell every time you swing it. So how I like to deal with white proteans on this character, just drop your stuff except for the combat baton. Like I could punch it down at this point, I probably should, but later on it gets like you either start taking quite a bit of damage from these, or it's just the durability is fine. So just give them one good whack with the baton, and then you can finish them off with the punch. Usually, is usually what I like to do with those white proteans.
Smashing.
Alright. So I'll bring it a level now. Well, we almost double leveled. I'm not going to go into too much details, but you really want to avoid double leveling. It's bad. So what's my leveling up strategy and what are her stats like? So she has relatively low might. 40 is pretty low, which can be a problem for using certain equipment. She only gets 1 stat point per level and 5 skill points per level, which is actually low compared to most humans and other even alien classes. I think except the Morigi. So she's one of the worst scaling as far as skills go. But on the upside, most of her skills are already high, which is so she's very similar to like how the Morigi works in that way, that she has poor scaling, but she starts with relatively good skills. So what I'd like to start with usually is get her might to 50 at least. Then it depends on what equipment you find. You're probably going to want to keep leveling might after that but it depends on what you find. If you find like good equipment already, I kind of like getting her power to 55, 60, something like that. So aim for might 50, and then I would say depending on like how you're building her, go for power 55 or 60, and then. But if you find like a weapon that needs like 60 might, you gotta go might all the way if you really need that weapon. So what I'd like to level up on her is resistance, redaction, and empathy. So this is very similar to my ranger strategy. I would not level her redaction all the way, only if you think that like food's going to be an issue, but I feel like it's not necessary on this character. Just level it until you unlock heal, and then just let it sit there. And I would level resistance and empathy all the way till you get life drain. Empathy is really nice just for fear, and resistance, you can go all the way with resistance until pretty much the end of the game, or until you unlock reflect. You probably won't be able to, but I feel like psi armor is a really nice skill, and so is invisibility. Alternatively, what you could do, I'm not sure which word would be better, but it's also very viable. Get resistance to about like maybe 35, maybe 25, yeah, 25 or 35, and level telekinesis instead, and go telekinesis all the way. I think those are your psionic options on this character. She doesn't have that many skill points, so you can't invest more than 2, I would say, per level in psionics. I would suggest against that. So what do you like? What do I like to level on her? So I really like to level melee on this character for a while. The reason for that is this uses melee skill, and you're going to be using this weapon for a long time, most likely. So I like getting melee up there. It's also good for your regular punches. So, and it's already at 45, so it's a nice way to invest your points early on. Same idea with the pistol skill. I like to level that up for a bit. The pistol skill is what uses for the transfuser, so getting a bit more damage out of this is a good idea. Now later on, once you free up some points, because you're going to stop leveling redaction, you're probably going to start up like melee after like, get it to like 50, 60, something like that. 60 is probably too much, like 60 on the left side is what I'm referring to. And pistol, same thing, 55, 60, I won't go beyond that. Now, as far as the other skills, it also depends on what tools you find, but it's good to get computer up a few points. She's already got high computer, but getting up to 55, 60, something like that, will help you get more reliable repairs at repair stations. And she's pretty good at using repair stations because her electronics is already at 40. Electronics is something I wouldn't level up too much. 50 is usually the max. You don't really need high electronics because there's a lot of tools at your disposal. Mechanical is a skill I always like, and don't level skills if they're not 45 yet. Wait till they get to level 45. So mechanical skill is a good one once you get that to 45. Same with forging. And I like to get a few points in biotech. Get this to, it's already really high, but get it to like 70, because at 70 it'll allow you to do 99% checks on some really good crafts like steak and shrooms, for example. One of her weaknesses is she has low assault rifle. The rifle skill is like not bad, 30 is okay, and most rifles are kind of accurate, so this is not too bad that it's low. But low assault rifle skills can make it hard if you find assault weapons to use assault weapons. I would not level medical skill, it's high enough as it is. Don't really need that any higher. And I think that's pretty much it for, like in the late game, once you kind of get your other skills where you want them. Some good skills to level up is Decipher. Decipher is good in the late game. And rifles also very good, depending on what you find. So a lot of your other skills in the late game will rely on what you find. You're going to have to adapt your leveling strategy. So she gets quite a bit of health when she levels up, and on top of that, because of her increased healing from healing items, she's actually quite a tanky character. She gets 3 side points per level, and I don't remember how much health she got. Maybe 15 per level? Which I think is average. Okay, I think that's about all I can talk to her about skills. One of her another strength is she starts with 20 energy cells, which is pretty good, which means you got a lot of swings with this combat baton, and if you do find an energy weapon, you'll probably have a few energy cells left over, and you will tend to find more energy cells when you open up ammo crates because you have this weapon. She starts the purifier, which is kind of nice for that food increase. You can purify things like the stale bread here, so we can go ahead and do that, which is nice. She doesn't need the skill ups from the purifier, so it's a bit less useful on her than other classes that need the skill ups, such as like the Hiver, the Merc, but still, she starts with it, which is nice. So we're gonna go through probably the first floor or two for this class tutorial. Yeah, let's talk about some of her weaknesses. One of her biggest weaknesses is that she doesn't start with a lockpick set, so it makes it quite hard to find new weapons. And in correlation to that, or alongside that I should say, she has no strong ranged weaponry. Like when comparing her to like the Marine, for example, the Marine she's kind of similar to the Marine in the sense that she doesn't start with lockpicks, but she has better like finesse and skills, so she can have a better chance at opening locked containers. Also a better chance of simply finding lockpick sets. But she doesn't have a good like ranged burst weapon like the assault rifle. So if you find an enemy that you need to kill quick, it's hard because she doesn't have grenades really. She only has two, and she only has a transfuser. So it's a decent weapon, but it doesn't take him down too fast.
That's going
So
to
that's one of her
scar.
biggest weaknesses, is that her ranged weaponry is really weak, and the transfuser is really bad against mechs. And
Some
um,
done asked.
like you often have to walk into a room full of mechs and start beating them up with a combat baton to clear the room. She ends up taking a ridiculous amount of damage doing that, and even though she's can heal it up uh, better than other characters, it's really tough to manage. It can be really tough to manage. All right. So we'll probably just do floor 2 here.
That's going to
Alright, those guys
scar.
give a lot of XP. So let's make sure we don't double level. Level might. Action. Alright, got heal already. That's nice. And so I can level biotech. Why? Hmm. Oh right, I use a purifier. Okay, that's why. And let's get melee here. Again, I wouldn't put too many points in biotech. It's already really high, but getting, you know, 3 extra points in it
Well,
is
that's
probably good
not
enough.
breakfast.
Alarms. On the note of alarms, alarms are actually pretty good in this character when it triggers. The reason alarms are pretty good, not so much on this floor because there's not that many mechs. I don't know if we'll be able to show the example. But what's really good about alarms is that instead of walking into a room full of mechs, you can have the mechs come to you and then beat them up with a combat baton. Makes the clearing of mechs much, much easier when you trigger alarms. So sometimes if you can purposefully trigger an alarm, which is kind of hard to do,
That's going to
then you can go
scar.
ahead and trigger alarms.
Stop that.
So you can see there the combat baton actually one-shot the Protean there, which is nice. Usually you don't want to hit those Proteans with anything but your fists or ranged weaponry, but with the combat baton's high durability, you can easily afford to lose the durability. Okay, ooh, multi-tool, that's nice. So what kind of things you're looking for early for her? Actually, the higher tool is a great one, but most importantly are lockpick sets. You really want to get lockpick sets. That and improvised lockpicks can help, so if you find you have the recipe for it,
Thing.
if you find the goods to make it,
That's going
then
to scar.
that's also another really good item.
Ugh, now
She
I need
gains
to
experience at a rather quick rate. I think it's either on par with the engineer or slightly below the engineer. I think someone told me it's slightly below the engineer.
Diamond blast.
But she levels up fairly quickly, which is another strength of hers.
Filthy pest.
So you can see some of the new enemies here from the DLC. These psionic using rats are a new addition. And yeah, I think that's about it that I can talk about for the healer. Yeah. So yeah, if you have any more questions about the class or anything like that, or any questions at all, feel free to post them on YouTube. I do answer them and check them. So I hope you enjoyed this class tutorial. Hope I didn't miss anything. And take care in the pit down there. Get as deep as you can. Be careful. My name is Lucky Luck Luke, and you can catch me on Twitch, Lucky Luck 2. If you want to try to catch me live, it would be awesome to see you there. You guys take care, and I will see you later. Bye bye.